Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pine Tree Live pregame show. I'm Brett Conway, and I'm here with head coach Kerry Lane. And Kerry Lindale came in this week. You know it was going to be a challenge, and it was on both sides of the ball. It was a challenge for y'all. It was a challenge for Lindale. And so let's talk about the leading players that you had in the game Friday night. We'll start off with Ethan Morgan, 151 yards, a long run, 89 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, the long run definitely helped out with that. We didn't block them very good up front early in the game. We kind of settled in after halftime and got a little bit better. But, Ethan does a good job. He's a good back. He's got good vision, and he's pretty strong on his feet. So he had a good night.
Both quarterbacks came in. They look like they're getting more comfortable at their position. Keelan Johnson had some runs as well. His longest was 5 yards, and Derek Williams came in 3 runs for 16 yards. His longest was at 10 yards. How are they looking as far as mobility?
They're getting better. They're both active. They're both athletes, 2 sophomores. And, we got to get DD in the game more. Derek, it's one of those things where we felt like DeKylan was right there on the edge of playing really good and just kind of kept making a few mistakes. And so we got to get DD in the game more and get him some more reps. He's an explosive player. Like I said, he brings a spark to our team, and we got to get better at that position. We got to coach better, and they got to play better.
Lucas Branson he was in running as well for a couple of times, but also on receiving. He had a long pass reception for a touchdown. I believe it was 72 yards. Tell us a little bit about Lucas.
Yeah, Lucas is a kid that always plays really hard. He made a great play in a big moment. It was a big third down, and really it was the wrong read. But DD threw a great ball to him, and he went up and made a great catch with 2 defenders right there on him. And then, he's got enough pop, he can go score. So he did a good job. Jonathan Fuller played really well, finally kind of come out of his shell and broke out. And he was our offensive player of the week, as far as our staff that we give out our awards. And he did a really good job. He's showing the potential that he has, and I expect a really big year out of him as a junior.
168 yards for him and 1 touchdown, and that was that 78-yard pass play. When you take his average, and being a numbers person and kind of a geeky about that, if you take that 78-yard pass play out of his total, he's still sitting there with 100. And when you look at his receptions minus that 78 yards, he's still averaging about 15 yards on those receptions Friday night. So really good performance.
Yeah, and only one of those was a deep throw. That's the thing. It's a long touchdown. That was that 7-8 yard route he caught and made a couple guys miss and ran and scored. So, receiver stats can be a little skewed sometimes. You throw a guy a deep ball, or like you said, they bust a long one or something like that. But when you're throwing it to them intermediate passing game and they're catching it and running, that shows his explosiveness.
Well, same thing. Cameron Turner came in. Good to see him get his hands on the ball. Another same thing, 10-yard reception, which is the receptions that you want. Those are the ones that really move you down.
He should have had about 5 more. We got to do a better job at quarterback. We had game plan to get him the ball more, and we had plenty of opportunities to get it to him, and we missed him.
Well, talking about the quarterbacks, they're playing. They look like they're getting more comfortable in their position, and Johnson certainly is moving well. Williams comes in really good on the run. Do you see a possibility where you'll have them both in at the same time, maybe running some options?
We got to get them both on the field. That's one thing I told DD this week, and he's a competitor. He's a tough kid. He's a good football player. And, if we're talking about our best 22 football players, he's one of them. And we got to get him on the field in various roles. I think he's getting better. They're both getting better at quarterback. Had a really good week last week. I thought they were going to play a little bit better. We didn't. Made a lot of mental mistakes, which as coaches we got to fix. But then this week they show right back up and they're back to work. And DeKylan probably had his best day yesterday that he's had. And so I told DD the same thing. They got to get more chances. They got to get in there, and he's got to get in the game. He's got to get the ball in his hands. He's an explosive football player.
Defensively, defense played pretty good all night long. You had folks like Jeremiah Bailey, 19 tackles. Great effort on him. Cody Yonner, 10 tackles, and of course Jeremiah Blinks, interception, runs in for a touchdown. Had 4 tackles as well. So speak about the defense.
Yeah, we had a few mental lapses early. Made it really too easy on them the first drive. We had a check-in for the back to the boundary, and we never did it, and we didn't execute it. And I think they ran the same play 3 times on that first drive. They went down and scored, and that's just us not doing our jobs. So we had a little mental lapse there. Jeremiah, I thought our safeties did play well. I thought Jeremiah Blinks is a really good football player. The pick 6 kind of flipped the game, kind of gave us some momentum back. Cody Yonner was active. I think overall in the box defensively, that's as bad as we've played in a while. The defensive line, did not do a very good job. We got very undisciplined, which has not really been our it's not been our standard. It's not been the way we play. So it was pretty frustrating watching that. We didn't maintain our discipline. We didn't really do a good job of doing our job despite of what was happening. And so as coaches, we got to get that fixed. I tell them all the time, we're not just going to out-talent a lot of people here. We've got to out-team them. We've got to out-tough them. And we got to play discipline. We got to execute. And we didn't on Friday night. And so when you play a team that does that and you don't do it, you lose the ball game. So, but, we got to learn from it as coaches and as players, and we got to move on and get it fixed.
Well, and let's speak to that as well. If somebody looks at a game report, and of course we get the scores during the broadcast, so we give what the current scores are, and we don't really look at the game. And I think the general fan, they might pick up the paper or pick up their phone nowadays, and they see the final score, and they see a close score like we had the other night, 31-29, and they go, boy, that's really a close ball game. And then they might read a little bit further down. They say, okay, well, Lindale had 470 yards. Pine Tree had 418 total yards. They must have been really throwing the ball a lot, but still a close ball game. And then they see Lindale wins on a field goal last 25 seconds of the game. So it must have been a really close ball game, or something was going on. But when you look at the game, like you say, what really tells the story is when you look at the quarters. And first quarter, like you said, Lindale, they get the ball first. They go down in 4 or 5 plays and they score. 2-point conversion. They're up 8-0. Pine Tree comes out 4-0, and second time they have the ball, they're like 4 and out again or 5 and out. But the defense really for both teams kind of started stepping it up there. There was no more scoring in the first quarter. Pine Tree couldn't get on the board, but to the defense credit, neither could Lindale. Then you go into the second quarter, and Lindale scores a touchdown. They get the point after, and then Pine Tree. That's when they have Fuller's long pass and the pass interception. So big plays get you in the game for the first half, and you're tied up at 15. You go in at first half, tied up 15, seeing what you're seeing. What do you tell the kids during halftime?
I told them the same thing we told them after the game. We got to execute better. I mean, that first drive they went down the field and scored was 100% on us. They did one little bitty formation that we hadn't seen yet, but it wasn't like it was anything different. They ran the same plays they've been running. There wasn't any surprises. We didn't do a good job of executing in those moments, and we made it really, really easy on them that first drive. And here's the deal: it's really hard to keep people from completely scoring. A second touchdown drive, they earned it, a little better. But I think when we didn't do our job early, we got a little rattled. I guess that's the only thing I can assume. But our defensive line went from bad to terrible pretty quick after that, and so we've got to regroup and get better. And I just told them, look, we just got to play our game and execute. It's not, a lot of people like to talk about halftime adjustments. Lindale didn't do anything different coming out in the second half. We do make adjustments at halftime. We do see things. We do get things fixed. But for the most part, the plan's the plan. You're not drawing up new plays. I know people like to think you do. People that watch the game from the stands or the couch like to think we go in at halftime and just create a whole new offense or a new defense. But it don't really work like that. All the adjustments are minor adjustments. And more importantly, it's just about getting them calmed down, getting them back focused, and going out and doing what we're supposed to do. And coming out of halftime, we go 3 and out 3 straight times, and they score twice, and it was 100% execution. We completely shot our foot off all night long offensively, and we're 2 guys away from making a lot of really good plays. And so that's stuff that we got to fix. And we can talk about being young, and we can make all the excuses in the world. At the end of the day, we're the coaches. Our job is to fix it.
Well, and that's true. It came out. It was 13-0 in the third quarter. It was almost like the first quarter, watching the third quarter when you came out. But then the fourth quarter comes along. You hold Lindale, no scores, and that's where you get your 2 scores in the fourth quarter. Again, those were big plays, but the offense actually showed, throughout the game, the offense showed they're capable of making the big plays. I know you don't want to rely on that, but the defense did hold.
We got to execute.
All right, and the defense did hold Lindale scoreless up until the last. It was about, I think, 1:20 when after the score, and then they started their drive, and then they were able to drive it down close enough for the field goal, and of course they kicked the field goal and won the game.
Yeah, the most telling thing to me about the game is we have the ball with the lead, 3 minutes and 30 seconds left, and everybody in the stadium knows what we're trying to do. They have 1 timeout left. It's 4-minute offense. We work on it. We practice it. We're trying to run the ball and get first downs and run the clock out, and they're trying to come stop the run, and we bust 3 straight plays. We had tight end didn't pull. Quarterback pulled the ball when he wasn't supposed to pull it. And then, 3rd and long here, and we're still trying to run the ball to make them burn a timeout, or to, and we hit the wrong gap. It's just, to me, I'm not taking anything away from Lindale. They deserve to win the game. They played cleaner than we did. But when you have the ball with the lead, especially with our mentality, with our culture, with who we are about running the football and executing, we got to go execute and get 2 first downs and go win that game. And we didn't do it.
One of the things that Lindale was very successful with was a short pass. And they were very good at, they'd line up 2 backs, left and right. They split out. He had that option, or they hit it right off the line, just real short across the line. And by that time, when the coverage came up, and I think they had 5 explosive plays, which I'll consider explosive plays, 75 yards on those 5 plays. And those were off those short passes where they hit them and they turn and go. And by that time, they're running past them. They're trying to tackle them up around the shoulder pads, which the odds are real low that you're going to get a guy up there. And,
yeah.
How have y'all adjusted? Because I think we've seen more of that over the last couple of games, those short passes. We saw that last season, I believe, going in short in the secondary. How have y'all adjusted to that?
Well, you got to be a situational football player. I mean, you got to understand it's 3rd and long. We got to play 3rd and long. When it's regular down and distance, to me, play a team like Lindale, they're not going to outrun you. So you got to get up and you got to challenge them. And, we didn't do that early. You see all that early. And when you have a good quarterback, their quarterback is smart and he's accurate. And so it's a good plan for them to throw the ball quick, get it out of his hand so he's not taking hits. And I knew if we hit him a few times, it could make him a little uneasy. And we did. We didn't do it enough. And then their answer is going to be to get rid of the ball quick. I mean, I felt like our matchup was better. I thought we were faster than them. We should have been up challenging them more. On the last drive, we got into our, kind of 2-minute defense too early and played too far off. We come get him one time, he throws off his back foot, throws a hanging ball, and that should have been a pick, with 3 safeties back there with the way we play. And it's just us not being locked in as coaches, not doing our job to making sure we're up, playing the sticks, and playing where we're supposed to be playing. So, yeah, we've got to understand the strength of our team, and we got to do a better job of playing to it.
Well, and you said something interesting a while ago is about learning. The kids are learning something every day, and it's the same thing in the classroom. And we would always preach to them in the classroom, you're learning something, you're making something happen every day, and you got to find that, whether it's in the classroom or whether it's on a team. But what a lot of people don't understand, I want to go back to it, is to be successful as a coach or even as a teacher, you're learning something every day from every kid that you've got. And,
yeah, you better be.
Well,
they're all
true.
Different.
But you also have to have that mentality that you're going to accept that the fact is that you're going to learn from those kids, and y'all do a very good job about that, I think, across your staff.
Well,
trying
we
to
try.
learn the kids.
Yeah, every kid's different. Yeah, and I think the number one thing with coaching, any coach can get on a whiteboard and draw up a play that's successful, and they're all designed to score a touchdown. Every play I've ever seen is, and every defense is designed to stop everything. And so I think the number one thing with coaching is evaluating what you have and using them to the best of their abilities, figuring out their strengths and maximizing on those, and figuring out their weaknesses and trying to to minimize those. And I think good coaches do that. And we got to understand we're playing a team like Lindale that we run better than. We got to force the issue a little bit, and we didn't. Like I said, we got in our stuff way too early, and that's on me as the head coach. And it was a good call to be in that defense for what they were doing. It was a bad call to not have the kids ready to scoot up and play it a little bit tighter, knowing that we were bringing some pressure. And so that's on me as the head coach to get that fixed with the staff, to get that fixed with the kids. And, football is a situational game, especially in those situations. You got to win those 2-minute situations. When it's 3rd down, you got to understand where the sticks are. You got to understand how they're going to try to attack you to better defend it. And we didn't do a good job of that as coaches.
Well, and like I said, that's part of learning the game on your part as well as on the kids' part. Speaking of learning, I want to talk about 2 or 3 things, and maybe the fans will understand it a little bit more, and that has to do with the officiating, and not so much the officials, but the calls that are made and why they're called. And we had an interesting call Friday night, which we don't see very often, but NFHS has sent out a thing to, they send out the points of concern, I guess, or that they send out to all the officials and coaches in the books, and on particular penalties and calls. And one of those for 2021 was the intentional grounding rule. And the reason for putting that out, according to NFHS, is because it's such a misunderstood penalty. And you watch it on TV and you see it in college or you see it on pro games they watch, and it's not the same in high school football. So Friday night, we saw several instances from the quarterback getting rid of the football, and then Pine Tree drops back. He turns to the side. He throws it to the sidelines, and he's flagged for intentional grounding. Explain that and the ruling on that, and why he would be called. I mean, I understand the rule, but from a coach's standpoint, why he would be called for intentional grounding as opposed to throwing the ball up out of the end zone and it going above the head of the receiver because he's covered.
Yeah, so intentional grounding by definition is, throwing the ball away intentionally in where there's not in the direction of a receiver. Right? And so the rule is if you're inside the tackle box, which is from the right tackle, offensive tackle to the left offensive tackle, and you throw the ball, if you throw a forward pass, it has to be going in the direction of a receiver if it's not deflected by the defense. Right? If you just throw it away into the stands, you have to be out of the tackle box and the ball has to go past the line of scrimmage. So on the particular play where we were called for intentional grounding, DeKylan scrambled, was out of the box, and then came back and returned into the box, the tackle box, which extends from goal line to goal line, and then he threw it away in the tackle box where a receiver was not, and I don't think it went past the line of scrimmage either. So I mean that's intentional grounding by definition, and no one likes it. I thought he was back out of the box, but you watch it, you can clearly see he scrambled, he got out of the box, he got back into the tackle box. When you don't throw the ball from there, it's got to be in the direction of a receiver. When their quarterback threw it away, there was a receiver that was close, and he just threw it over him. And that's really what you want to do. You want to throw it over the head of a guy that no one has a chance to catch it, but it goes beyond the line of scrimmage and it's close to a receiver. And so, it's just another thing of we've got to do a better job of making sure we know when to throw the ball away. And we got to throw the ball away anyways. We take way too many sacks right now when you don't have to. Give a guy a chance if it's the time to give him a chance. And if it's not, throw it in the stands and let's move on with life.
Well, and speaking of the offensive line and the sacks, if you look at Ethan Morgan's carries, of course he had 150 yards of carries, and when you take out his long run, of course that gives his numbers up. But when you take out that 89-yard run, he was really only averaging about 3.4 yards per carry, which is low for him.
Which is low.
And when you take these big plays away, then you start seeing what's going on, and so that's really an indication that the offensive line is not there for you.
Yeah, they have 5 new ones, and they got to get better. That's for sure, and they are getting better. They're working their tails off, and it's a hard job playing offensive line. But yeah, we've got to do a good job, and we've got to do a good job of coaches. People are going to come into the game against us knowing to stop the run. We're young on offense, that we are inexperienced. We got young quarterbacks, so anybody that plays us, it's not real hard to tell that their plan is going to be to stop the run. And so we've got to do things to take advantage of that. And when we do get them open, we got to hit them. And when we do get a chance to run the ball, we got to block them and we got to hit it. I think we are good at running back all the way down, and so we got to get better up front. And they will. This team reminds me a lot of what we were 3 years ago with 10, 12 sophomores out there and young offensive line, and they got to just play. They got to play and they got to grow up. And I can tell you this: it's not from a lack of effort from the coaches or the kids. The kids are working their tails off. They're doing everything we ask them to do. They play extremely hard. We coach them extremely hard. They're up here a lot, doing a lot of work. We just got to get better.
Well, and along those same lines, this week you're playing Kilgore, and homecoming at Kilgore, that can be a positive or a negative depending on how the kids react to what's going on. There's a lot of things always going on during the week at the schools. They're taking advantage of having an early homecoming during their preseason, which some coaches like, some coaches don't care.
Yeah, most coaches do like it. Just depends on if you get the crowd starts throwing a fit about it being hot at homecoming.
Right. But Kilgore, like I say, it's homecoming, so they're going to have a big crowd. But they're very similar to being in the same place what Pine Tree is. They have a new coach this year, I believe.
They do, yeah.
And so he's implementing certainly some of his style of play. But they're also a team like Lindale. They went all the way to the state final game last year, eventually lost at that game.
They lost in the 4th round to Lindale.
It was in the 4th.
Yep.
Okay, so it was. I thought they had gone on further. But, last week, and they've got a quarterback. This is his first time at the varsity level as quarterback. And they've got some other kids they're looking at. So new coach, new players. It's pretty much like Pine Tree. Got a lot of sophomores playing. Juniors and seniors are a pretty close number. But last week against Hallsville, pretty successful game. Now they do have one running back I believe it was number 9, Devin Ryder, and he had a great game last week. And he was kind of like it was like a one-man show last week. So has 4 or 5 touchdowns. He blocks a punt. The punt gets covered in the end zone, not by him, but by someone else for the touchdown. He was the only other one scoring touchdowns. He plays well on defense, plays well on offense, so an all-around athlete. If he is that kid, that can be kind of dangerous because certainly y'all are looking at that. But how are y'all preparing for Kilgore this week coming in?
Well, like I said it Friday night, and I stayed with it. We're planning on Kilgore. We have a plan to beat Kilgore. We plan on how to attack them and how to defend them. But our biggest focus this week has been on us. And some people may think I'm wrong for saying that, but we say misalignments and missed assignments get you beat way before mismatches ever come into play. And so it's not going to matter who we play Friday night if we don't take care of the Pirates first. And so we do have a plan for Kilgore. We have been working that plan, but our biggest focus every day at practice has been making sure that we're practicing the right way to give ourselves a chance. Scheme doesn't matter near as much as execution, and I think that this team is learning that. We can't bail you out with a play call all the time. You got to go win and you got to go do your job. And so obviously I'm preparing for Kilgore. We watch them. They look like Kilgore. Defensive line is good. They're big. They're athletic. They're rangy everywhere on the field. Number 9, the Ryder kid's a really good football player. He's a big kid. He runs hard, plays hard on defense. He's very solid. The quarterback is new, but he's athletic. He's got some good receivers. He's got 2 that can really run. I think they run really well as a team. They always do. To me, Kilgore kind of always looks the same every year you play them. They're going to be big on the D-line. They're going to get after it. They're going to play hard. They're going to be scrappy. They kind of have that same program every year. It doesn't matter what year it is. Their kids, to me, always kind of look the same. So we're going to have to be at our best. They're definitely more athletic than Lindale, so we're going to have to play better. And I think we will. I believe in our coaches. I believe in our kids. It's been an effort from the staff meeting on Sunday to practice Monday, Labor Day, to practice yesterday, and then this afternoon. There's been a different feeling. There's been a sense of urgency, and from the coaches and the kids, and I think we're going to see that pay off on Friday.
Well, you expect them to. Of course, they're athletic. Expect to see them spread it around a little bit. I think primarily the last game they were mostly on the ground doing the running because that's what was working for them that game. I don't know what they did the first game. I didn't go back and look.
Yeah, Hallsville hit them on a few big plays, kind of kept them in it. And so their response to that was just to settle down and run the ball. And I think they were in a situation where they felt like they could win the game. And, the game was only close because of a few big plays. So I think they just felt like, let's just calm down and run the football and keep scoring. And they did. It ended up being a pretty high-scoring game.
Well, it'll be an interesting game, and it'll certainly be a challenging game. I think it'll be challenging not only for Pine Tree, but I really think it's going to be challenging for Kilgore. And maybe
I sure hope so.
And maybe the first challenging game that they've had of their 3-game preseason. Of course, this is the last game before we take the break, and then we start in with district. Marshall will be coming in 2 weeks after Friday night's game, and district will start off. That's kind of turning into a rivalry there of sorts between Marshall and Pine Tree, and that'll be something to look forward to. But that's what you want on these preseason games, and y'all have done such a great job of getting very challenging games to get you ready for the district run. I think we
got to get more kids in. We've been pretty thin for various reasons, which everyone is. So we've done a good job of playing a lot of kids. It'll be nice when we get our full team back together and we can kind of really see what we have. But I do think these first 2 games we've got a lot of kids, a lot of playing time, and we need to do the same thing again Friday night. When I want to go win, and we're going to try to go win, and we're going to do everything we can to win the game. But the main thing's the main thing. We want to make sure we're playing better, we're executing better, and we're getting lots of kids ready. You don't want to throw a kid in a big moment district ball game when he's never touched the field. That's a disservice to that kid. So we got to make sure we're getting them all ready to play, and still a long season ahead.
Well, we see the improvements every week. Of course, we have that luxury because we only see them once a week. We don't see them every day like y'all do. And so it's easy for us to see the big changes and see how the kids change from week to week. But at the same time, that's a compliment to you and the staff on the good job that y'all are doing with the kids. I know the kids are sometimes they're tired of hearing things, but I'm pretty sure from what I've seen and from what I've heard, I know the parents are very excited and they're behind you 100%.
Well,
and they appreciate what you're doing. You got good kids, you got good parents, and you got good fans this year to bring you on through. And this week, it's going to be Kilgore and the Pirates, and that'll be what's coming up next. Live on Pine Tree Live, we'll be bringing you the game tonight from Kilgore at R.E. St. John Stadium. and that'll be between the Pirates and the Kilgore Bulldogs. And as always, if you can't make the games to the stadiums, you can always go online at ptisd.org and go to the department page for athletics, and there you can find the link to the games and see the live stream on YouTube. So on behalf of Kerry Lane, on behalf of his staff and all the kids on the team, I'm Brett Conway. We appreciate you watching Pine Tree Live, the pregame show. Don't go away. Kilgore and Pine Tree will be up next from R.E. St. John Stadium. We hope to see you at the stadium, and we'll see you next week on the Pine Tree Live pregame show.
What you know about rolling down